This Kawasaki ZR 1400, ladies and gentlemen, is a bit of a monster. It really wasn't designed for any kind of fuel economy, although if you ride it a certain way, you can get some pretty decent MPG numbers out of this motorcycle. So I can kind of see why certain people would think that buying a motorcycle would be great for saving a little bit of money on fuel. But one, is that even possible on a motorcycle like this? And two, can hypermiling techniques damage your bike? Well, let's jump on and let's find out. I find it absolutely fascinating how motorcycles like these, even though they've got big displacement, loads of horsepower, loads of torque, and they're quite heavy, they're not really designed to be fuel efficient, but yet by their very nature, they have the potential to be incredibly fuel efficient. A motorcycle like this has a rev limit of 11,000 RPM, that's where it redlines, and you can quite easily cruise at 60-70 mile an hour between 3,000 and 4,000 RPM, which on a motorcycle, that is pretty good going. And you can see how if you're doing that kind of travel fairly frequently, how even a motorcycle like this can save you a lot of money on fuel. But I suppose the question that we really should be asking ourselves is whether or not that is good for the bike. I suppose we could do a little check here of what my MPG is right now. This is a UK MPG, by the way. But yeah, let's pull over here in the shade. Hopefully it'll make it a little bit easier for you to see the screen. But let's have a little look here. Current MPG, average MPG 37.1. That is pretty good on this bike. That's better than my car's. I mean, it's not quite as good as my wife's Ford Fiesta ST, which is quite funny actually, isn't it? Because those kinds of bikes, those kinds of cars, excuse me, they are designed for performance, but they can also have very, very competent, shall we say, fuel economy features. Like for example, my wife's car, not if it's in the sport mode, granted, but if you're driving it normally, it's a 3-cylinder, so 1.5 turbo petrol, 3 cylinders. Well, it can turn off one of the cylinders as you're driving to make your highway driving quite significantly more fuel efficient. But you don't really see that in bikes so much. Yes, it is starting to come through with the hybrids and things like that, but you're not seeing motorcycles with those kinds of features where, yeah, they can just turn off a cylinder or turn off 2 cylinders whilst you're out and about riding on a highway or something like that to increase the MPG just a little bit more. But that might be coming because a lot of these motorcycle manufacturers these days are coming to triples. Inline 3-cylinder engines as opposed to inline 4s. Inline 4s and V4 kind of, they were the standard, but yeah, I think that's kind of shifting, maybe for that fuel efficiency, that extra fuel efficiency, because you're not going to be losing out on that much RPM, you're not going to be losing out on that much horsepower at the top end, but it is going to be, well, you are going to lose out a little bit on the horsepower, but you shouldn't lose out too much on the torque. But you could have a much more fuel efficient motorcycle at the end of it. So it is interesting how the motorcycle industry is changing to be more fuel efficient, but these bikes are not designed to be fuel efficient at all. Alright, yes, they have to meet emission standards, but these bikes are designed for fun and they're designed for performance. That is exactly what this motorcycle does. It is incredibly fun, it is incredibly fast, and it is incredibly powerful, and I ride it as such. I don't ride this motorcycle like I'm trying to hypermile it. If I am cruising, then I'll sit in a higher gear. But so like here for example, right, we're in 6th gear, we're doing 50 mile an hour and I'm just under 3,000 RPM. We are coming up to a road. I wasn't going to go down there, but we are coming up to a road where I can test out what the RPMs are going to be at 70 mile an hour on this motorcycle in 6th gear. Let's have a quick look at that. Let's see what it can do. So right now I'm sitting at about 65, about 3,500 RPM. Current MPG, you're looking at about 60, between 60 and 70 MPG. We're slowly increasing up to 70 mile an hour here. We're on a 70 mile an hour road, by the way, and we're averaging about 58, 60, 58, 60 MPG. That is pretty good going, if you don't mind me asking, if you don't mind me saying, rather. I mean, it would be nice if this bike had cruise control, so I could like stick it at 70 and do it. But unfortunately, yeah, I can't. But I mean, let's pick up to 80 here. 80 on the speedo. So okay, you're talking about 50 mpg at 80 mile an hour, which is pretty good. That's pretty good mpg for a motorcycle that really wasn't designed to have good mpg. I mean, maybe to some extent it was designed to have a decent mpg, but no. Look, I'm sitting at 70 mile an hour right now and I'm getting 60 mpg, 57.8 mpg. That is mad. Crazy good fuel economy from a motorcycle like this, and we're just hovering under 4,000 RPM there. So here you go, this bike has the potential to be quite the mile muncher. And if you had a look at a motorcycle like the Concours 1400, which here in the UK is called the GTR 1400, then you're going to get even better MPG out of a motorcycle like that, I think. It's basically the touring version, the sport touring version of this motorcycle. But obviously when you're on the gas, when you're on the throttle, yeah, your fuel economy is gonna drop. But that has even surprised me, you guys, at how good of an MPG that is. I mean, you could probably get over 200 miles in a single tank with this bike. I think this bike has got a 21 litre tank, something like that. I can't remember. I'm curious because here I'm at 50-ish, 55 mile an hour. I'm hovering around. I'm accelerating at the moment, but yeah, I was hovering around 60 mpg as well. So yeah, pretty good. There's a car behind me that's got a little bit annoyed with me. But yeah, so if let's speed up again. Let's test it one more time. I think we are going up against the wind here. Okay, so 70 mile an hour. Up a little bit. We're running out of road. So just under 70 mile an hour, yeah, hovering around about 50 mpg, 60 mpg rather, yeah, 60 mpg. And of course, as I slow down, it's going to shoot up. But that is roughly, you guys, what the mpg potential is of this motorcycle. Quite good, if you ask me. And of course, if you look at parallel twin motorcycles, so like a 650, well, like a Ninja 650 from Kawasaki, or I don't know, maybe like an MT-07 from Yamaha, something like that, you're gonna get even better MPG out of it. My wife's Ninja 125, I mean, that again, that bike wasn't really designed to have decent MPG, but it's got incredible MPG. It averages something like 80 MPG. It's ridiculous, and that's with me revving the tits off of it because it has no power. So it is amazing what bikes can do. But so now that I've proven that this motorcycle can be incredibly fuel efficient, even though it's not really meant to, can it cause damage to the bike? Riding like this all the time, if you try riding like this all the time, you don't rev it all the way up to its higher end RPMs, what damage can that cause to the bike? Well, the first thing, and perhaps the most important thing, are carbon deposits. Now, carbon deposits are one of those things, I've done a little bit of research on this. They're going to happen anyway. You're going to get carbon deposit buildup on your motorcycle, inside your motorcycle engines anyway. So on the intake valves, on the pistons themselves, on maybe not so much on the cylinder walls because the piston's going up and down, so it's going to be rubbing on those surfaces. But carbon deposit buildup is a real thing, and in and of itself, it doesn't really cause that much damage if you have a little bit of carbon deposit buildup and a natural amount of carbon deposit buildup. The only way you can stop it from growing, how you can stop it from getting any bigger, is by using the whole RPM range. If you use the higher end RPMs every once in a while, then you're going to create more heat in the cylinders, and apparently you are going to get rid of some of those carbon deposits, or at least keep them at bay. But that is perhaps the biggest drawback to hypermiling, well, anything. That was a Toyota Supra, that was nice. Hypermiling any kind of car, but including a motorcycle, you're going to get that carbon deposit build up naturally. That's just going to happen because as fuel is burned, fuel in air is burned, it's never going to be 100% efficient, and that's how you end up with carbon buildup in and around the cylinders. That's just how it's going to go. That's just how it's going to happen. But what is the impact of carbon deposits? Why are carbon deposits so bad? If they happen naturally, then why is it a worry? Well, the thing is that they can cause all sorts of problems that you might not even be aware of up until, well, later on, you know, in some cases much later on. So carbon deposits can do things like lower fuel efficiency, which is interesting, isn't it? But basically it messes with the air to fuel ratio inside the cylinders, because there isn't as much volume inside the cylinders because you're getting a coating or a caked on layer of carbon build up. So it can ruin your fuel economy. It can hinder your ability to start the motorcycle as well. It can hurt your, you know, one day you might be in a cold day or something, it might be difficult to start. That could be why, because it's got carbon deposit buildup. You're also going to get less performance out of the bike as well, potentially less performance, and you might not even realize it because you're riding the bike in a certain way every single day. When you do decide to open up the taps, you might not realize that you have less power than you used to. I think that's one of those things that goes away after a while. If you ride a bike, you know, at higher RPMs for a little bit, you'll probably increase the power output of the motorcycle ever so slightly, like the classic Italian tune-up. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I mean, I think there are studies that have shown that you can't really clear up carbon deposits by just running an engine and running it hard. Unfortunately, you do have to get some kind of cleaner to remove the carbon deposits if they're caked on bad enough. But if you ride with some gusto, with some spirit every once in a while, then you're going to keep those carbon deposits off for the most part. A natural build-up is going to happen, but it's not going to build up anywhere near as quickly. So it's something that you don't really have to worry about if you're going to be using all of the RPMs of the bike, which I do on a fairly regular basis. Not all the time, but I do use all the RPMs on this motorcycle, as you absolutely should. You should use all of the RPMs. Don't worry about going up towards redline. Everything from 1000 all the way through to 11,000 RPM, or on your motorcycle it could have a higher RPM limit, is well within the range, the operating range of the engine. So don't worry about damaging the engine using higher RPMs. It'll be absolutely fine on the higher RPMs, and if anything, it'll be better for your motorcycle if you use the higher RPMs every once in a while. Now, luckily for you guys, this is only an issue in cars, because emissions aren't tested on motorcycle MOTs, at least not yet anyway. But it can also increase emissions, which means that your car could potentially fail an MOT if you're not careful. So that's a big thing, because it's going to fail an MOT and you're going to be like, well, what the hell do I do about that? And then most people will probably think, well, I have to scrap the car. But actually, you can get cleaners. So cleaners that you just leave. I mean, it is a bit involved, unfortunately. I don't think that you can just put it into the fuel tank. You might be able to. There might be products like that you can just chuck into the fuel tank, and that might help clear up some of the carbon deposits. But if you want to do a thorough job, then you're going to have to take off the intake manifold, so you get access to the valves, and you're going to have to spray it onto the valves and things like that. You leave that on there for a little bit, and then you've got to try and drain it somehow. I don't know, I think I see it done both ways, actually. I'm not sure. Maybe Scotty Kilmer would be the person to ask about that. But yeah, so you could get a fuel additive, but the better way to kind of stop it from happening long term is certainly to take the intake manifold off, and maybe even the exhaust manifold, and clean it up like that. So, I mean, you guys, honestly, there's not really a lot of downside to trying to hypermile a motorcycle. When I was doing the research for this video, I thought there would be more damage done to the engine over a sustained period of time, but it actually doesn't look like it's that bad. But I still, for the longevity of the motorcycle, I would still recommend that you ride it properly, use all of the RPMs, and if you stick to higher RPMs on a regular basis, then you're going to have no issues with your bike whatsoever. It's going to be better for your motorcycle's motorcycle engine. But I mean, that's what I found out about hypermiling. So it is interesting, isn't it, how these bikes can be so fuel efficient if you give them a chance. And any motorcycle has the potential to be fuel efficient, even a bike like this. But as I said, you can have motorcycles that are parallel twins or even single cylinders that are smaller, less performance, of course, but they're going to get much better fuel economy. So if you're looking to buy a motorcycle for fuel economy, don't get something like this. Get something that is purpose built for being more fuel efficient. And there are lots of motorcycles out there that have that capability, but they're not going to quite have the same levels of performance that a motorcycle like this does, which you know, I mean, it is a bit of a give and take, but it's not really as bad as I thought it was going to be. So if you did want to hypermile a motorcycle like this, I don't know why you would, but you probably could do it and get away with it. I mean, that has given me a bit of an idea to see how far I can get this motorcycle on a trip on a single tank of fuel. It would probably be pretty damn far. But yeah, you guys, motorcycles, they have the potential to have the fuel economy of diesels, modern day diesels. So there is quite a big benefit if you are looking to save a little bit of money on your travels. Fuel, actually, because I honestly, because the way how I ride bikes, the way I think that I ride them normally, but you know, I ride them for fun. I don't ride them for fuel efficiency. But this video today has shown me that if you do try and ride the bikes for fuel efficiency, they have a lot of potential to give you some pretty good MPG. So there you go, you guys. If you needed another reason to buy a motorcycle, well, there you go, there you have it. MPG, baby, saving you a little bit of fuel every single day. If you have, I mean, it depends on the travel, I suppose, the type of travel that you do on a regular basis. But if you travel down motorways, or if you have a longer commute, then I think this point is going to be even more valid for you. But for guys like me, I mean, my commute isn't that long into work, really. I have a 5-minute stint on the motorway, so I'm not really going to see much of a benefit there. But yeah, if you guys have the opportunity to, then yeah, bikes have the potential to be fuel efficient. But let's not forget, you guys, a lot of modern cars are also fuel efficient as well. The only difference is that bikes don't have to, or manufacturers don't have to try as hard to make their bikes more fuel efficient as the car manufacturers do. So yeah, it's just one of those things to think about. Tell you what, actually, I mean, we were talking about my wife's Ford Fiesta, and that's actually quite a good comparison, comparing this bike to my wife's Ford Fiesta ST, because even though that's a 1.5 litre turbo, that is a 3-cylinder, and this is well, 1441 cc inline 4 with naturally aspirated, so no turbo. So that's actually quite a valid comparison. I do wonder if that Fiesta is going to get slightly better MPG because of that turbo, because it's able to get more air into the cylinders. Yeah, that's fascinating, isn't it? That would be an interesting comparison. So if I put the same amount of fuel in both my wife's car and this ZZR 1400, which could go further? You got to think it's got to be a ZZR, right? Because the Fiesta is going to be carrying a lot more weight, even though the Fiesta is a fairly small car. Yeah, fascinating, absolutely fascinating, and I think that's probably something that we're going to have to test at some point, you guys. But there you have it. I think that's gonna be it for today's video. Let us know what you think down in the comment section below. Oh, that's a Versys. No, excuse me, was that a Versys? No, I think that's a 1000 SX. They're quite fuel efficient bikes as well. But they're in inline 4, big cylinders, but loads of horsepower, loads of torque. Probably more fuel efficient than this bike. Yeah, fantastic motorcycles, the 1000 SX. But yeah, let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Let me know your experiences with motorcycle fuel efficiency. I mean, are you one of those riders that tries to get as much fuel efficiency out of your bikes, or are you a bit like me where you don't really care so much about fuel efficiency, you care about more of the enjoyment, the fun factor? Let me know down in the comment section below. But let's remember, you guys, that most, if not all motorcycles are designed for fun first and foremost. Fun. not fuel efficiency. So if you are looking to get the most amount of fuel efficiency out of a motorcycle, you might be a little bit disappointed, because cars have come an awful long way when it comes to how fuel efficient they can be. And that is including the performance cars as well. That 1.5 turbo from Ford, 200 horsepower, you guys, that's a fun little car. And because it's a lightweight car as well, it just drives like a go-kart. It's absolutely fantastic. It's a great riding experience. I love my wife's Ford Fiesta ST, but it doesn't compare to a motorcycle. Never does. Nothing ever does compare to the ZZR 1400. But yeah, you guys let me know what you think down in the comment section below, and is it something that you have tested out before yourselves on your motorcycles? Let me know. I love hearing from you guys. But as always, please go ahead, leave that like, hit that subscribe button down there. I'd really appreciate it. It helps support the channel massively. And don't forget to hit that notification bell as well. But thank you ever so much for joining us again on today's ride out, you guys. We'll catch you all in the next video. Have a good one. Ride safe.